This segment sponsored by Viking Psychiatry. And joining me now is Sean Goddard, who is the owner here at Viking Psychiatry. Hey there, Sean.
Hey, it's good to see you again.
You too. Okay, so we are diving deeper into learning about your practice, but of course, start off by giving us an overview.
Yeah, so Viking Psychiatry, we've been in Fort Wayne for about 3 years now, and we consider ourselves now an interventional psychiatry practice. And so that's just a fancy way of saying we have tools that nobody else has that can make a difference in people's mental health.
Yeah, and I know it's important that you create an environment that's different than what people would expect, right? This is not a mental health institution where there's white walls and just, as you say, sterile environment. You want it to be cozy and quaint. So share with me a little bit about why.
Yeah, we want people to feel comfortable, right? One of the best things that came out of COVID, and not a lot of good came out of COVID, right? Yeah. But it helped reduce the stigma of mental health, right? Because a lot of us struggled during COVID, right?
Absolutely.
Or sought help for the first time during COVID. And so we want to continue to reduce that stigma by providing an environment that's warm, welcoming, that makes you feel comfortable when you walk in the door and doesn't make you feel like you're walking in just to get a treatment, right? We want people to feel good when they walk in and great when they walk out.
Yeah, and so one of the treatments that you offer here is Deep TMS, and we are in that room right now with this lovely machine behind us. So what is Deep TMS?
Deep TMS, I joke with my clients and I tell my clients it's the Rolls Royce of TMS, right? So there's what's traditionally called a figure 8 TMS, so it's two coils, kind of magnets put together, and a beam shoots out of the middle. And while traditional TMS is good, it's very dependent upon proper placement, right? And we don't really get that deep with regular TMS. We can only penetrate about 1.5 centimeters deep. And Deep TMS is a coiled system, and I'll kind of show you what's inside that helmet is this, right? Instead of being a tiny little beam that shoots down, we have this coiled system that covers your entire prefrontal lobe, is what we call this here. And because of that, we're able to treat for depression, instead of just treating a small pinpoint area of that left prefrontal lobe, we can treat the entire amount. And we actually penetrate 4 to 6 centimeters deep. So we have a much higher success of treatment when it comes to depression and other mental health disorders.
So is it a microwave? Like, what is it that goes down to kind of, or is it a stimulation tool?
We're not frying eggs here or scrambling eggs, right? No, great question. So it's called electromagnetic stimulation, right? And so we're putting in magnetic pulses, right? And electromagnetic pulses. And that's what's kind of waking the brain up, right? And you'll see here later when we put the helmet on somebody, makes a little bit of a noise, not scary at all, and there's no pain associated with it at all. And so it allows people to get a treatment that's non-invasive, that they can come in for their treatment, and as soon as they're done, drive home themselves.
And so let's talk about what it helps. Like, what are you treating through this machine?
Yeah, so in the U.S., it's currently at this time, it's FDA approved for ages 18 and above for treatment-resistant depression, depression with anxiety, and OCD, as well as most recently smoking cessation. Now, when it comes to other countries, they have additional approvals for example, ADHD, MS fatigue, substance use disorder. There's a lot that we can treat with TMS. Regretfully, we're a little restricted on FDA approvals in the US because it's so hard and so expensive to get approvals. But we can, in the US, do what's called off-label treatments and treat things like ADHD and those things we talked about. So
interesting. And so how does the treatment work? So you're stimulating the brain, and that causes people to have a different thought, a different sensation? Is the mind just kind of healing in areas that causes those types of disorders?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So what we do is, you know, if you think about like a muscle that's not used, what happens to it? It begins to waste away, right?
Yes.
And then we go through physical therapy, right, to begin to rebuild the strength in that muscle. Well, the brain is no different. When we have, for example, depression, our frontal lobe, left especially, begins to waste away, right? And those synapses, right, that we hear about where dopamine and serotonin and those types of things are supposed to have an effect, don't operate the way they're supposed to, right? So they're rough idling like a car that you just pulled out of the garage, right, after a long time. And so what TMS does is it sends in those waves and takes that rough idle to a little bit smoother of an idle, right? And then smoother, and then now all of a sudden you can drive it down the road like you used to.
Yeah.
And that's what we want people to be able to do, is drive down the road like they used to, right?
Yeah.
And so we're not changing anything, right? We're not changing the structure of the brain, we're just waking it back up again.
Okay.
In other things like, for example, ADHD, we're slowing some areas of the brain, like the temporal lobes that might be going too fast, that's causing those racing thoughts that won't allow your brain to shut off.
Yeah.
But also stimulating that frontal lobe, which is the conductor of the orchestra, and saying, wake up and conduct, right? And so we have that capability to do that with this machine.
That's so deep, because I feel like some of the preliminary issues as like ADHD can really impact other areas, as you're saying, and I'm thinking about it. So if it is that hyperactivity, does that play a part in people who have insomnia?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, when you, giving the example of ADHD, I tell people all the time, my clients, if you strip everything away from ADHD and you break it down to its basics, it's about communication, right? And so this area of the brain is communicating slow and lazy, especially the longer we have to sit still and pay attention and listen and all those types of things, right? Whereas these parts of the brain are in overdrive, right? And they're racing a million miles an hour. And so in our world today, it's go, 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 right? And so if you think about those windy toys, right, that we used to have as kids, you wind them up and let them go, right? And so during the day, we're constantly cranking that wind, cranking it. And then we come home, and what are we supposed to do? We're supposed to be able to relax and enjoy our family and our time. But we don't get to do that much anymore, right? We got to come home and clean and cook dinner, and because it's two-income families, etc.
Right.
And so then when we finally lay down, because we want to go to sleep, we let go of the wind. Right? And what happens? Zoom. We want to take off. And that's what our brain does.
Okay.
It zooms and it takes off, right?
Yeah.
And so it can absolutely interfere with our ability to go to sleep, stay asleep, or even waking up at 1 o'clock in the morning and then not being able to go back to sleep.
Back to sleep. Wow, it's so good. I mean, it just all really just intertwines into each other. And so tell me, who is eligible for this type of deep TMS treatment?
Yeah, so right now, 18 and above with this machine. The exciting thing is the FDA did just approve with another machine treatment in adolescent clients as well. And we expect to see that come through on this machine as well. So we'll finally have another treatment options for adolescents, which can be very restricted. And as long as there's just a couple of things that cut people off, for example, maybe having like a deep brain stimulator or metal in the head, right? There's a couple things that exclude people, but other than that, it's us assessing the client, making sure that they're clinically appropriate, maybe conferring with their current psychiatric provider, and then it's all about insurance coverage as well, of course.
Of course. Okay, well, let's take a look at how this machine works.
Absolutely.
This segment sponsored by Viking Psychiatry.